I'm Donna White. I was a registered nurse in Vietnam at the 27th Surgical Hospital in Chu Lai. I was the oldest, or am the oldest of 5 girls. Being the oldest, I felt like I had a responsibility to make sure that I was settled in something because there were 4 younger ones. Mm-hmm. So after I graduated from high school, I always was a high achiever. My parents were teachers, and I was expected to do well. And so when I went to college, though, I changed my major into nursing. And so I kind of felt obligated to find some financial, and that's when I looked at the Army and joined the Army, who helped pay for a good deal of my education. My first reaction was we were put in a great big huge hall when we arrived, and there was this other girl and myself. We were both nurses. We had worked together, and we sat by ourselves in this huge garage-looking place with tons of chairs, and it was like panically frightening. Yeah. There was nobody around. Finally, some guys came and gave us a place. We went into a barracks, a place to sleep for the night, but they stood guard too, which made us feel a little scared. But then we were sent from there to the hospital where we were going to serve. And the first initial thing was panic and fear. Yeah. It was very, very frightening. Well, the first days in the service were not the same as the guys because I was a student. I was in school. Yeah. So my first days were simply in basic training, because that's when I really went into the Army. It was at Fort Sam Houston in Texas. That's where you got basic training for officers and for nurses. And the truth of it is, it was fun because we ate a lot of popcorn. We drank a lot of beer, quite frankly, because we marched in the middle of this was hot summer, and they marched us through this area, and we had to learn all the steps and how to do all of the military things, and then we would have fun in the evening. So, and then when you got your uniform on for the first time, I don't know if you have ever seen this, but all the guys would know when we were expected to wear our uniform, because the first one that saluted you gave them $1. So the guys would still line up and come around and start saluting so they would get the dollars. But the basic training was fun, even though it was hard work.
Yeah.
Because they would also, that's the other thing, they would also, we did regular things that like the GIs would do. They took us out in the middle of nowhere and put us there, and we had to use a compass to get ourselves back into, where we were supposed to be. We went through what was called ARVN training, which is Vietnam kind of thing. So we would go through booby traps, and we fired weapons.
Wow.
I fired a number of weapons.
Even though you were like the nurse.
That is correct. We were given the training.
Yeah.
In case.
Yeah.
Now, as it turns out, I didn't ever carry a weapon.
Did you have any free time, and what did you do during that free time?
We would have some free time. Not a lot, because we were working 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever. And then, but during our time off, there was a little building close to the hospital that we called the Officers Club. And we would go there and mostly dance.
Yeah.
We danced an awful lot. And had some partying kinds of things. And then that was about it. I didn't, there wasn't once or twice, I think, I was able to get to the ocean and get into the ocean, but that was all because we stayed so busy.
Yeah.
But that was fun. So I got to see the South China Sea.
Did your opinions on war change after experiencing it?
I don't know that I had any opinions before.
Yeah.
Is part of the problem. Part of the issue of the question.
Yeah.
I don't know that I really had any experience with it or really even understood or knew. I joined the Army for many different reasons. I wanted to go to Germany. And the minute I put in the request to go to Germany, I got orders for Vietnam. So what did change is that I very clearly, my son grew up never being allowed to even touch a water gun.
Yeah.
I, totally wasn't, guns are meant to kill, and that's it. And I'm really, one time when he was a little older, I let him have this gawky, orange-colored, freaky thing for a water gun kind of thing. But, there was just, I wasn't going to have him around at all. I totally, that nobody else would have to go through this for sure. Because it does change you. There's just no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Everyone. And I would challenge those who say, they have no problems with it. I bet you I could spend 5 minutes with them and change that thought. But
is that because of your experiences that
yes.
you had? Yeah.
Yes. And of many, many veterans I've met since then. I mean, I've been in groups with veterans and whatnot. Every single one of them, there's something that they haven't resolved.
Yeah.
So, the way it is.
Did you ever stay in contact with your family while you were in Vietnam?
Absolutely.
And how did you do that?
Writing letters.
Letters.
It's not like today where you can actually text or actually all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
No, we wrote letters and letters and letters. And I was very careful about that.
Yeah.
Once or twice we had something happen over there where we were told that the word had reached the States that Chu Lai, which is where I was stationed, was wiped off the map. They used those words. So they allowed us to make a phone call home to say, no, we're okay. But it was an old-fashioned, real old-fashioned where you had to say, yes, exactly. And you'd have to say, over. And they had to instruct your family to say what they wanted to say and then say, over. And we had maybe 5 minutes to say, we're okay, don't believe that. And then the other time we were allowed to come home was we had a fire. Our barracks burned down.
Wow.
Exactly. Wiped out everything. So that was the second phone call. Other than that, it was all letters.
Did you keep any of those letters?
I asked my mother for the letters, and she told me she had just taken them to the dump.
Oh.
I was so hurt. I'm sure she wanted to try it, that she thought she was trying, that she was sparing me or whatever, but I wanted those letters really desperately. But they were gone.
Wow. So you said that your barracks had burned down. What was that like, and how did it come back? Were you? It was in the room right next to mine, actually, and it was supposedly, they said it was an electrical fire, but it took that whole barracks down, this whole, right here, this whole thing right down to the ground. Some of the rooms that are on this farther end, we didn't get many medically. Ours was wounded.
See any injustice because of your gender?
You had to be very careful over there. There were some, but we were in a fairly protected area. And remember, the only women there were nurses and the Red Cross workers. And basically nurses, man, they didn't want to mess with you, I mean, really, honestly. Pretty darn respectful.
Yeah.
So there weren't the women in the combat or those kinds of things. So basically, no. And one of the things that I remember thinking was, whatever rank we were, I was a lieutenant and then a captain over there, I mean, I got the same as every other captain. Didn't matter what the job was. I mean, the rank made the...
Your service dog? How did you... Have you had a service dog before, and how did you find her?
I actually found... Okay. I've always had dogs, or I've had dogs for a very long time, and they've always been very, very, right there for me.
Yeah.
Well, I was in the midst of losing my long-term dog, was a Dalmatian, and she had a heart tumor, and I knew the time was coming.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm not losing her and not have a substitute.
Yeah.
So I went on the look. And the best place to find dogs is PetSmart on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So I went to the PetSmart in Culpeper, and she was there. This one, Bryn, was there. She had been fostered in Madison County. They found her wandering around. I don't know who let her out of their sight, and then they fostered her and they brought her there, and so I got her. And it wasn't until after I got her that I thought that I recognized people were getting service, but women. I'd walked into the VA, and here are women with service dogs, and I'm like, wait a minute. I want one. I deserve one. And I wanted to, in all honesty, I wanted people to know that there was such a thing and that other veterans could get the help. Yeah. So I put her through paces, which were not that hard because she came very well behaved.
Yeah.
And it was a matter of teaching her a few things like proximity, etc. And that was it. And it's been about 2 years now. So it was part of it was really truly wanting one for sure. Yeah. And she's made a big difference. Yeah. I wouldn't be here probably right now today for her because I can very easily avoid things like this that can be very painful. And yet with her I can go anywhere. We go anywhere. We go everywhere and anywhere.
That's awesome.
So, and I have helped a couple other veterans go through the process of getting a dog as well. So that to me is, important.
Yeah.
So.
Is there anything else you would want to mention that was stood out to anything?
One of the things that I was telling someone else that when I got back from overseas, there were a couple things on my mind. And the first was that I wanted as many family members to know that the guys who came in where I was where the nurses were didn't die alone. It was so important to me to try to get that message out. And I did a couple times, but I'm still getting the message out. And then the other thing was, it was very important to me that other young, new nurses have support as they were learning to be nurses and not be thrown in the middle of a pond and expected to swim. Yeah. And so I worked very hard at that too. And it wasn't hard actually. It sort of came easy to me because I was, it's a part of the nurturing thing. But I was very careful with young nurses and new nurses and any nurse, anybody actually. And it wasn't just nurses, anybody who needed. I didn't want them to feel alone or to feel abandoned.
Yeah. After listening to her stories and feelings toward her time in Vietnam, we realize how much of an effect war has on your life after returning home. Donna White saw everything from death to triumph.